Hello and welcome to.
Wee!
There we go.
Wee!
There we are.
What a start. New year, new you, Martin.
Oh dear, it's too early. Good morning. Happy New Year. Welcome to After the Bell, Mirror Fightings Boxing Show with me, Martin Don, with George Groves and with Declan Taylor. We do wish you a Happy New Year. Please do make us happy by giving the video a like if you're watching. Do subscribe to the channel. If you're listening, please do rate and review. It may only be 3 days into January, but already we had a blockbuster of a fight on Saturday night. Ryan Garcia dropped in the second round by Luke Campbell, recovered well to then drop and stop the Brit in the seventh round with a vicious body shot. We will, of course, be focusing on that fight, running through it and talking about what's next for both men. So, George, as I said, Campbell put Garcia down in the second round, left hook to the head, recovered well. The seventh round, Garcia disguised the left hook to the head, dropped it to the body. Luke Campbell took a knee and couldn't get back up. For the 6 and a bit rounds we had, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, it was a great fight. Brilliant fight to start the year off with. Good to watch. So this was supposed to be Garcia's big step up. The American commentary was, they're putting all their eggs in one basket. He's got a lot of Instagram followers, so he is the future of boxing, which was described numerous times. Compared him to Oscar De La Hoya, to Saul Alvarez, who obviously he works with and trains with now, and he was. I was interested to see how he's going to deal with someone like Campbell, who prolific amateur, vastly experienced. As a pro, I still believe hasn't really achieved his full potential, but knows his way around the ring now. Teak tough, skillful, big lightweight. Garcia comes into the ring on a throne, so he totally backs himself. Like it's incredible. If you're going to come in on the throne, I wouldn't have the nuts to do it during a pandemic when you've got like a couple of fans. You got I think there's 6,000 fans there, but that was their capacity. Probably could have got 20 in there. Wherever they were in Dallas last night, it might have been the bigger venue. I can't remember. So he's good. He's very good. I mean, he's got fast hands. He punches hard. He's got bundles of confidence, which we were told again numerous times in the build-up. But where it can come to your advantage and where it can come to, sometimes it can be a blessing in disguise. It's 6.5 does the other, and sometimes you can come unstuck. And he nearly come unstuck last night for me, Garcia. The pre build up we spoke about last week. I saw Campbell throws a fantastic bolo shot to the ribs. He can change the angle on that, and he can come anywhere. And if the guy is faster than you, Campbell has to punch with him, take his head off the line and punch with him. And it wasn't long until I felt Campbell sort of half had the measure of that tactic, and the body shots were going in. To use your great expression, Declan, water in the basement. I felt like you could see it coming. They talked about Garcia not being has never been the distance before. Now this is going to have an accumulative effect, and there's such a greenness to him, such a naivety to him, where he makes so many novice moves. I think but he gets away with it a lot of the time through his hand speed and being able to punch hard and backing himself to attacking those sort of situations. Campbell hit him low, hit him downstairs, and then just changed the angle, put it right over the top, and he went down heavy. I mean, just goes to show he's got fantastic conditioning. Garcia, young, fresh, still pretty fresh in the fight to get up from that so quickly and sort of compose himself. I felt Campbell might have needed to have jumped on him a little bit more at that point. Obviously, of course, easier said than done, but in terms of what was needed, he probably needed to buzz him again in that same round, not let him sort of try and get his feet underneath him. And then from then on, as I say, Garcia, he kind of makes those naive. He caught him at the end. I think it might have been the end of the fifth or the sixth. Campbell kind of switched off that entire round. There was not much coming back from him. He wasn't creeping on him. He wasn't forcing the pace a little bit more with some twitchy movements. Sort of allowed Garcia back into this round, and he catches him at the end of the round, and Campbell turns away. On the replay, the shot probably wasn't as bad as what it felt like it was at right at that moment, because I thought, Campbell's gone here. He's got caught. It turns away. He goes to almost hang on to the ropes. The bell goes, and then Garcia comes out next round. He has a whirlwind 30 seconds again, showing maybe a touch of greenness where Campbell's had a minute off now. He sort of expends himself for 30 seconds and then has to back away and catch his breath a bit. Fantastic shot to finish it in the end. He does show high, punch low. Campbell was covering from the southpaw position. He was covering up with and lifting his elbow up, giving that side of his ribs away. The shot went in full blooded. One of them sickening ones that happens to fighters, and you can tell he wanted to get up Campbell, but he just the air was knocked out of him, and the fight was over. So I think we learned a lot about Garcia. He's got a fantastic chin, to a certain degree. Not something that you want to prove at this stage of your career, but he's got off the deck from a heavy knockdown to get a foothold back in the fight, and then turn the table and stop Campbell, who hasn't been stopped. He's been in the distance with Benares and obviously Lomachenko and so many other great fighters. So it was a good active test for him. I think Campbell might be gutted this morning. He might have thought that he could. I know they went out there to believe that they were going to fight. The camp were confident. They had a feeling that he was going to be able to do the job, Campbell. And I think he, contrary to the commentary, he had large periods of success, Campbell. And at times, he could have controlled and dictated and put Garcia sort of in the box. Put him in his box where let that youthful, excitable naivety, force its way out, as such. But ultimately, it did. Huge body shot went in. Commiserations to Campbell. Feel gutted for him this morning, but you have to tip your hat to Garcia as well. So I wasn't a fan of the ring walk, but he's got a few more fights before he gets to that level, and then I'll be rubbing my hands with joy. I love a good ring walk, me. So it's interesting, but he's very interesting.
The problem, Dick, with sort of predicting this fight and thinking about how it was going to go was that there was so much unknown about Ryan Garcia. Sure, 20 victories, 17 stoppages, only 22. Clearly had power, clearly had speed, but as George said, Luke Campbell was the acid test. And therefore, if you're looking at the unknowns going into the fight, you have to now say, well, fair play, he answered most, if not all, of those questions.
Yeah, massively answered them in style as well, because obviously you wouldn't have wanted to get dropped like that, and that wouldn't have been in the game plan, but it could be the best thing that happened to him in this, that happened to him last night, getting hit like that. He said afterwards, you saw him say to Campbell, I've never even been down in my whole life. So to feel what it's like, and then obviously to get up as well, you got to think what the experience he would have gleaned from that. And also he's like, well, actually it's not that bad. Look, I got up, my chin's good. He would never have really known himself. He would have fancied himself, well, I've got a decent chin because I've never been down, but that was a big shot he took. And also he recovered quick. It was like, he was sort of finished the round on top as well. Not so much that it could be a 10-9 round for Campbell. I don't know if you saw one of the judges gave that 10-9 only. It was mad. But it was a difficult one. I fancied Campbell, maybe not to win, but certainly it wasn't as big as it was as the bookies made it. But I think he's a real star, and the key thing with him is that you can't take your eyes off. You can't take your eyes off a minute of it, because he got that little bit of vulnerability. He's so in your face and all action that he doesn't really care. Like, look at the finishing shot. It just sort of came out of nowhere. He thought, I'll just give this one a go. From the first 20 seconds, I thought, whoa, he looks really sharp, and he looked really big as well. I think he answered all the questions. I do think we need to pump the brakes a little bit, or he won't, but obviously at only 22, we've seen that list of fighters at lightweight. I don't know how I would rank him against the rest of them, but there's no rush as well. If he's at 22, you could have another 5 years before he's anywhere near his best, and he's already a superstar. Like, I don't know if you would agree, but I've never seen that much buzz and chatter about. I described it last night as a relatively low level fight, which got a bit of heat for that, but I still think that is the case. You know, it was a eliminator. You know, it's not like a pay-per-view fight, not a big, but it got a lot of buzz for a 22-year-old to do that against someone like Luke Campbell. Shows that he's a superstar. But then the reverse of that is, okay, it's a bit like when we spoke about Devin Haney. The reverse of that is, okay, now he's got to go and he can't drop down now. He can't drop down and continue his learning. He's going to be pushed to have big fights. And DAZN, as we saw from the commentary, he's one of their golden geese. I don't think they're going to let him take it easy. So all I know is it's going to be a fun old ride with Ryan Garcia at only 22. You're talking about another 10 years of this, easy. So, yeah, I mean, great performance, great fight. Big commiserations to Luke Campbell. I don't know if he'll have a few regrets himself about how the fight went, but you just got to admire someone like Garcia doing that. Just the strength of character and the strength of his chin. People now saying he's chinny, I think is the opposite. He got hit like that, went down and got up and won the fight at stoppage in only the 7th round. I think it was an amazing performance, and it's exactly what he needed to prove to the people like me, to be honest, who thought, well, he's a bit more style over substance, but he's both.
I mean, everybody banged on about the 7 million Instagram followers or whatever beforehand as a sort of way to suggest that's all he was. But to now be able to say he's obviously still got those followers and then some, and he can do it in the ring. It's difficult to, well, there's probably nobody who can have those two things, right? So it's now going to be interesting to see how that comes together. And there's so much talk about, oh, he's the future of boxing. He's going to change the demographic. He's going to, lower the age of people who watch boxing. But that's going to be part of the interest going forward now, to see whether that really does have an impact outside of the people.
He sums up what we're talking about in terms of when Logan Paul and his brother and YouTube fighters and all this sort of stuff. It's very different now to even 10 years ago. That sort of currency is massive. He fights on an app. He's on Instagram all the time. He tweets like he's got a lot of young teenage followers. He's the absolute embodiment of the next stage, as much as whether you like it or not, the next stage of what boxing is going to be like. So I totally agree with you.
George, you mentioned it earlier when the shot that finished Luke Campbell, he brought his elbows up so high. A bit, I mean, it's almost like rolling out the red carpet then for the body shot, right? Mm. Is that because he fears that left hook to the head so much? Is it just a mistake, or is that a style thing?
Yeah, it could be a little bit of all three, really. It could have been a genuine mistake. I mean, you never want to give away that much of a target to the guy in front of you. I'm sure he would have been conscious of his left hook, which he knows is a good shot, power shot. And sometimes it just takes a little bit of bedding in when it's orthodox versus southpaw. And then, the things that, you as the southpaw might be used to getting off against, conventional orthodox. Some guys, they know a little bit more and they adapt a little bit better. I thought Campbell boxed with a slightly wider stance, so obviously working with Shane McGuigan, who worked with me, a little bit with David Hay. I always used to like a wide stance. So I don't know whether that's and then I think Shane used to enjoy that as well. And Campbell being a big lightweight, I think they probably said to him, look, widen your stance a little bit. You've got more range now with your defenses, because for your upper body defenses, don't worry about being too quick with your feet here, because this guy is fast. So a foot defense is a little bit more difficult sometimes against a guy with fast hands, if you always want to be in a position to punch with him or to just immediately counter with your long loopy shots, which Campbell does probably better than most of the division. he didn't struggle to hit Garcia last night. I thought, especially with the straight or the bent arm right hand bolos that came through time and time again. But you always got to be you're conscious of the guy who is going to punch back, especially someone like Garcia who's got so much confidence. He might punch in a position when you don't think he has no right to punch. It's like it's a little bit crazy, but it's like I can't think of an example now. It's like driving and you think this guy ain't going to pull out. That's dangerous. He's going to pull out. Oh, he's pulled out. Oh, he's got in front of me. But he's willing to take that risk because I know he's a naive driver. That's kind of like Garcia at times. But it can pay off, and it definitely paid off. And he's got a lot of skill. He's got a lot of boxing knowledge, but know-how. Just the fact that he shows high and hooks low. I mean, that might have been a split-second decision. Like, he might have initiated that punch thinking it's going to come to the head, but then just know, oh, there's too much target downstairs. I'll just sink it down low. Top-level fighters can actually do that, you know. It's just they get their fundamentals right so that the punch starts in a particular position where you can almost just change the destination of it, you know, during the process of the punch. Solid shot. I think as Campbell goes down, he probably wasn't even sure that the fight was over then. It's only until you turn around and you see Campbell on the floor, you think, all right, this fight's over. And there was sheer relief on Garcia's face, you know, at the end of the fight. I think steep learning curve, you know, getting dropped and getting up, you know, it's all good. He still didn't hurt, nothing. I'm fine, I'm in control. But he might have had some real acid tests for him last night. He, you know, learned a lot about himself. He's in good company. You know, he's surrounded by, you know, some of the best in the boxing world. So they'll all be very impressed with him and very happy with him. That, yeah, you know, promoters will never say it, managers will never say it, trainers never say it, but you know, if your lad gets off the floor to win a fight, you know, that's a tick off the box that you can have. I remember I forgot his name now, Lennox Lewis's manager was talking to me. That was something Lennox never actually managed to do, get off the floor and win a fight. And I was like, yeah, well, he done a lot of other stuff as well. And he's like, yeah, you know, they want to do everything. So I was like, yeah, well, I think I've been dropped at the time. It's better not to go down at all. But yeah, that's good. That's good to have that ticked off the resume for him.
I think you mentioned, Dick, that Luke Campbell might be disappointed. Should he be at 33 years of age, arguably his last chance to get a third world title shot? Should he be thinking this morning, sure, Ryan Garcia is very good, but I had that, you know, clearly had opportunities in that fight to do some damage, and I should have gone on to win?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's only natural for someone who, you know, is successful and a winner like him to regret certain things, particularly getting caught like that and getting stopped like that from a body shot in a fight where he'd had Garcia down over. I'm sure naturally there's going to be regrets, but I'm sure when he reflects on it, he might think, yeah, maybe I could have jumped on him a little bit more. Maybe someone else would have, but then who knows? Maybe he would have got chinned coming in, you know, something like that. It's hard, but I think what Luke will be thinking now, George will be able to give some insight on this, I'm sure, is what's next for him. Because like you say, Lomachenko, I mean, the Linares fight, his preparation was awful. Obviously, the death of his father, you know, just in the build-up was, you know, meant that was totally disrupted. And he fought his heart out. And to be honest, a lot of people had him winning. So there's that. Lomachenko, yeah, you lose to Lomachenko on points. It's, you know, it's Lomachenko. But then that one, a 22-year-old rising star in the packed division. And if you lose like that, then you're like, okay, what now then? What? There's no excuses. There's no caveat. So I think that will be where the regret is. And you think, okay, where does he go from here? There's loads of fights out there for him. And the mad thing is because of the number of big names in that division and the assumption that really they're not going to fight each other one after the other. It's not going to be like Four Kings. There's going to be a lot of posturing and a lot of interim fights and stuff like that. The reality is he might still get a world title shot at lightweight, because particularly if Lopez goes up and the belts fragment, he might get selected for someone like Haney and things like that, because now the Americans know him really well. because he's done that against Garcia. So people might think, okay, I want to do one better. I want to knock him out quicker or whatever. You know, you never know. He might end up getting a world title shot at lightweight after all that. But in answer to your question, yeah, I think naturally he's going to be waking up regretting a lot of things about last night.
Before we come on to what's next, John, now this might just be me, and I might just be a really bad loser, but afterwards, they're in the dressing room, and Ryan Garcia, I'm sure Luke Campbell, he said he's heartbroken, right? Now, if I'm Luke Campbell, the last thing I want, by all means, respect to Ryan Garcia, he's done the job, a very good job. But I'm in the dressing room, the last thing I really want, I think, is him coming up for a picture and saying, oh, look, you fought some good guys, how hard do I hit compared to them? And listen, Luke was very gracious. There were lots of pictures with Canelo and everything. Maybe I'm wrong, but that just feels like an odd situation to be forced into when you've just lost a fight of that magnitude.
Yeah, well, I'm a terrible loser. I don't think there's anyone worse than me. I say about everyone after they've got beat. I'm like, why is he smiling? Why is he this? Why is he that? But that's just me, you know. And some people don't like that. You know, some people would see me as just, I don't know, a sore loser or just miserable or something. But my heart is broken. Like I am in pieces. But it comes. I mean, he's lost before Campbell now. You know, this ain't the first time. The hardest time to do something is the first time. You know, he's been beat before. He's kind of like back-to-back losses now with Lomachenko, and I was around Campbell for the Lomachenko build-up, and I thought he was going to beat him. Like I tried to say, like, you can beat him, like but you're gonna have to win every second of every round in this fight. You know, you're gonna have to have the game plan nailed. You're gonna have more pressure on you than you've ever had before. It's gonna be so intense, but you can do that. I remember when I had to do it. I remember when I did it against DeGale. I remember when I've done it with Frotch. I mean, where every minute detail you want to be planning and winning. I don't think he got that off in the Lomachenko fight, and no one really stood him a chance. And because he got through 12 rounds, everyone was like, "Oh wow, what an achievement!" But I was like, "Well, that ain't the Campbell I know. Campbell ain't happy with that. You know, he's an Olympic champion. He wants to become a world champion. He's been on squad." The GB's set up long before Andy Joshua was. And Joshua comes in, and they both win an Olympic gold medal at the same time. And now Joshua's gone on to unify the heavyweight division, and Campbell kind of got forgot about. Never won a world title. So that man, he was desperate to win that world title, and he still was. And I don't know how he feels this morning, whether he still is this morning. But I'm sure this is like last year. He still had great ambitions to become a world champion. It's tough now because the division's interesting because a couple of the bigger names, he's already boxed Lomachenko, but I don't think Lomachenko's a full lightweight. Gervonta Davis is not a full lightweight. And then the other guys are real young guys who are probably going to get better. Lopez might move up, but you've got Devin Haney, you've got Garcia, who he boxed last night. He's in the mix to fight these guys if he wants to be the B-side and try and cause an upset and be an underdog. But who knows if he wants to do that now? You know, does he want to, you know, go into tough fights and maybe finish up his career with a couple more losses on his record, but, you know, roll the dice and try and get these guys win a world title and earn some money, obviously. But, you know, I don't know what he's thinking and feeling right now. I know he's setting up a gym back home in Hull. I'm not exactly sure what that is, whether it's an academy or whether it's a private members club or just something that. But all of a sudden now, his life doesn't seem like it's just about his career in boxing. He's looking to other avenues of, you know, fulfillment, I suppose, in life. And I mentioned it earlier. He's in there. He's got an American name now as such. You know, obviously the Lomachenko fight was picked up in the States. Now he's fought Garcia, put him over, then got stopped. But they're familiar with him now. I would be surprised if he don't fight Haney, probably even this year. But what will it be? Will it be for? Will he manage to get a full world title on the line for it or not? Will he have to box his way back into that position? We'll have to wait and see. He might, he might go down. Yeah, no, I won't say it. Hopefully, I'm not sure how he's going to feel this morning, whether he's going to want to carry on boxing. I don't know. Maybe, I'm speaking way out of turn and it hasn't crossed his mind at all. And he's like, the desire hasn't left him. He wants to get back in the gym and get training. But it'd be interesting. It'd be real interesting to see.
He's also spent, if not all of his professional career, but certainly most of it away from home. Whether it was, in the States or whether it was down in London, maybe children, maybe that's also going to be a factor. I'm sure. Maybe one thing, I don't know what you think about this, Deck, but I think the mess that is the WBC is made worse by the fact that so last night, in theory, what should happen now is Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney. But as you said earlier before the show, Haney was there. And Ryan Garcia, he sort of talks about Gervonta Davis, then he asks the crowd who they want, and they say Tank Davis, and then he has some words with Haney, but at no point do you ever really get the feeling that, Garcia particularly wants that fight. So I think Haney has another mandatory in Javier Fortuna, or some sort of, that is there. So maybe Haney fights Fortuna, Campbell fights another, and then that could, because he presumably needs a win to then go and fight for a world title. And if Garcia Haney's still not happening, if Haney's not fighting any of the other champions, maybe George is right. At the end of the year, Luke Campbell somehow, by the roundabout way, gets a shot at Devin Haney.
Yeah, this division in particular, where there's a lot of big names, and also it was mad, wasn't it? Because you had Haney in the crowd. They're both on DAZN. They boxed, I think, 6 times as amateurs. He's fighting for. In what is effectively a glorified eliminator for that belt. But even in the interview, he's like, "Oh, Devin, I'll fight you some point down the line." In the interviews, in the build-up to the fight, he said, "Oh yeah, well, I'll fight Devin Haney at some point." But they're basically mates. I don't see that fight happening next at all. And then he keeps going on about Tank. I don't know if he knows that fight won't happen, or whether he's been told to say it. I don't know. But honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Campbell gets, for want of a better word, sort of recycled for one of those guys. Where's he gone?
You're not happy with your answer, Tech.
No, but I wouldn't. He's gone. Yeah, maybe you could fight Devin Haney. No, I'm telling you, don't be surprised if he gets a world title shot. I mean, it depends on how you rate the WBC regular title these days. The actual one, rather than. Because, for me, Lopez is a champion of WBC, but actually, if you look back at the potted history of it, he's not really, because Lomachenko vacated the belt and whatever. It depends how you stand on that. But, yeah, for me, there's opportunities for Campbell still. Also, there's guys like James Tennyson, and there's even like Lee Selby. I mean, Lee Selby, for me, is a classic like chief support on a Joshua undercard sort of thing. That's what you would have seen in a full stadium or whatever. That is exactly the sort of fight that Matchroom will be looking at. But yeah, I think you're not beyond the realms of possibility to say that. I don't know if we're just cynical now as boxing fans, but the idea of Davis and Garcia and Haney and stuff actually boxing each other with regularity is, for me, seems absolutely impossible. But I hope I'm wrong. Maybe I am.
I mean, of course, you have the promotional issues with Davis. Garcia as well. I suspect you're not wrong. And the problem is, either you're too cynical and you say it's not going to happen, or you build it up and build it up and build it up and it never happens, and just a waste of time. I think you just have to be realistic in our expectations. But the question, Garcia's got to fight somebody. So who does he fight? And surely he can't take a step back from Luke Campbell. This is the issue. Once you make that step up, surely you've got to at least maintain it, maintain that level.
Yeah, but the thing that we got on I saw a list of their ages, and I think he's 22, I think Haney's 23, Davis 26, Lopez 24, is it? Whatever it is. So they can't avoid each other for 10 years. That it will happen, but I just wonder whether Maybe as well, maybe DAZN now, because they have to, in this day and age, they have to get subscribers. Maybe they're going to be the ones who put pressure on to make these fights happen now and not marinate and stuff like that, and not look for build it up so they get big hit on pay-per-view. They're just like, no, we need fights. We need reason for people not to cancel their subscription. So we've got to deliver fights and we've got to push our guys into them. So that might be how it plays out. I really hope so. I really hope so.
George, I know I ask you to pretend that you're every fighter that ever fights and tell us what they're thinking, but, if you're Ryan Garcia, what is your thinking now? He obviously he says he wants Tank Davis. Part of me just thinks he's not daft. He knows that's a difficult fight to make. Or is he just so youthful and naive and exuberant that he just thinks, yeah, I can and will fight anyone I want?
Maybe. I mean, this is a different era to these different generation to me. I don't know how these fighters think and feel. It might be strategic, but it's just like, just attach yourself to this name that ain't gonna really come through, because then you can talk about the Haney fight could have been done and dusted in terms of the build up last night. They're both in the arena, they're both signed to the zone, and then it's a foregone conclusion. And then when it doesn't happen, someone's going to point the finger, and it's who's going to take the blame, and maybe Garcia's edging his bets with, I can, if I call out Gervonta Davis and it don't happen, then that's his fault. I've staked my flag in the ground. I want it to happen. But yeah, it's going to be tough. These guys are young. You can't drop down a level. How many guys are there out there who will want to take this fight, with these guys at this period, because they've got ambitions themselves, but you got to keep them busy. I mean, if you're 22, you should be fighting. You can still be fighting 4 times a year, easy, and not burn out. So you don't really want him to be dropping 1 or 2 fights a year, like he's full established elite world champion level. He's still got a lot of learning to do. I mean, that's what I took from the fight last night, is exceptional talent, but I still think he's got a lot of learning to do. And that's kind of the way to get that, would be just rounds under your belt. Just get some more tests. Not every fight needs to be a test, but you can sort of mask that if you're going to fight 4 times a year, because you might only have 1 real big fight, maybe 2. The other 2 might just be tick over, sort of former, big names, but past their best, that sort of thing. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to match these guys. Yeah.
And that's why though, isn't it, that someone like Luke Campbell still has a value, because there's 4 of them now there who all need opponents. They can't fight each other all the time. They won't. But they're that young that they need to be boxing regularly. So someone like Campbell, like a world level lightweight that now they know in America, and they've got a clip of him dropping Garcia. He's perfect. He's still very valuable in that division, I think, to DAZN in particular.
As an opponent as well, I just try and sympathise from a fighter's point of view. They will see that Campbell got stopped with a body shot last night, and they'll be like, they'll probably diminish all the other elements to the fight that makes Campbell a dangerous opponent, a real dangerous opponent. But you're thinking, well, hit him downstairs, he'll go. So that's why Campbell will be top of the list for them other guys. Think, yeah, I'll have a crack at Campbell. As you say, they might go one better than Garcia. I'm sure hopefully Campbell ain't offended by me saying that, but that's the fighter's mentality. So it gives him a tiny bit of value as well. And as long as that's what he doesn't mind doing, he doesn't mind being the away fighter and trying to cause an upset, then he's got plenty more fights left out there for him, and definitely got an opportunity to fight for a world title, as you guys say, because the belts might go free, and he's in the mix. He's in the mix even after a loss.
How you talk about becoming an opponent with maybe the potential offer of a world title shot down the line. I guess you retired before that ever became a possibility for you, but how much does that play on fighters' minds? Like the idea of no longer being the A side or having to be branded as an opponent, looked at by people as someone who, you're right, I can go one better than someone else, rather than look based on simply the fact that they're good.
Yeah, well, it's tough. It's tough. I remember, I think when I lost to Badu Jack, that's probably the closest I got to it. Where, like, he's challenged for another world title. I didn't quite fulfill it. Didn't quite get there. Now people are, is there prospects they're looking at me as a name. I remember it was with Callum Smith, still relatively green, was Eddie Hearn was attaching him to me like I was some sort of stepping stone. I was like, all right. And then I ended up fighting Martin Murray, and then being back in the mix to fight for a world title. So yeah, I mean, I was still pretty young then. I was like mid 20s, but at Campbell's age now, 33, a few losses on his belt. He's been boxing a long time. He's been boxing since he's a small child. Different sort of predicament. I'm not sure. Like, maybe if them guys that can stay fit, stay healthy, stay motivated, stay in the gym, as long as the purses are reflective, and worthwhile, then I don't see why they can't stay in there and wait to cause that upset. I think Campbell's he's probably the top of the list when it comes to them sort of guys who, in this situation now where he's coming off the back of another loss, is he going to be a gatekeeper to the world, to the elite of the lightweight division? He's still a dangerous guy. So we can see.
And you wonder as well with, like, have DAZN got the money to be paying effectively two A sides in, say, Haney and Garcia, who both big earners and can they afford to put them both in? I don't really know the ins and outs of it. They haven't got a pay-per-view platform, so it's not like they can subsidize it like that. They just got to get the money from somewhere. So really, I would assume they'll be looking at, for now, getting guys in who are a bit cheaper, at the B side being a bit cheaper, the opponent being cheaper, and then otherwise, how does it work? I don't understand how they could possibly make any money and stay in business. But I'm sure Campbell get well paid, and they're still getting well paid. There's even people like like George Campbells Jr., the one who beat Lee Selby. Like, people like him going to be reasonably cheap, desperate to make a mark. There's enough guys to keep the big names away from each other for now. I think, and that's what might work in Campbell's favour.
It would be interesting to know how much or what sort of impact Ryan Garcia fighting on DAZN has to their subscription, because I can't imagine people get really excited, with all due respect to Devin Haney fighting. Nobody's rushing to subscribe to DAZN to watch him fight, at least compared to Ryan Garcia. So I know Devin Haney's the champion in theory, but maybe the pressure needs to be on him. They need to go to work on Devin Haney to say, this is your best chance. I know you're the champion, but maybe this is your best chance to be more popular.
Well, being a subscription channel, it's just to go back to how fights get made. The big fights in the UK for the last 5 or so years has been a percentage of profit. So it's very easy. You go, how many people have bought this fight? They've paid the pay-per-view. How many tickets have been sold? This is how much it equates to. You take off the expenses and then you divvy up the rest, right? But how do you do that now with the DAZN model where, one, you can't sell any tickets, so you can't make any money on the gate, and two, how do you measure what the fight has brought in? Even DAZN, I don't know how they would measure what this fight has generated, especially if they're selling, a year's subscription, at a discount rate. You're like, well, I'll pay that. I'm a boxing fan, and we see what comes along. There might be some sort of way of working out, how many people subscribed before the Alvarez fight or before a Garcia fight or whatnot, but it's not precise. So now it's back to that old school promoting where promoters have to go, okay, right, well, we're going to pay you this much, we're going to pay you this much. They roll the dice on whether it makes money or not. I can think that it's a long-term plan for DAZN because even for the UK, it's so cheap. It's just so cheap that it doesn't equate to what's out there. And the panic for me as a fighter would be, and now as a boxing fan, is like, what's going to have? Is there going to be any compromises? Is it going to be on quality? Are we going to now just have you know, there's going to be no there's going to be no big build up. You know, there's going to be no documentary series that are put together that of that level, and the fight's going to be able to get made because, you know, we're going to have more subscriber friendly fights that might not necessarily cut into you know, the actual elite of the boxing world. Fascinating observation yesterday. Correct me if I'm wrong. There was no female boxing and no heavyweight boxing on the card last night in the States, which like as a British boxing fan now is bizarre because when have we ever seen a show that isn't almost half subsidized by? We always get 1 or 2 female fights now, but certainly a bunch of heavyweight fights. It's great to see that they're exploring this other abstract idea of other weight divisions than the heavyweight division in the States. They've sort of kept that going last night. Some quality boxing on the undercard as well. Really enjoyed it. Kudos to Eddie Hearn if Eddie Hearn did it. I don't know. Brilliant. Couldn't think of anything better. Fascinating.
I really wish I could announce Steve Allen's or the other lad, Alan Bouch's next fight live here. Great instant reaction. One day I'm going to just bring him in without you knowing. Just slip Alan Babbage in and we'll have a nice conversation.
I like Babbage. One day I'm going to be walking down the street and I'm just going to get hit with a barrage of low quality punches, and I'm going to like, what's going on? And this Martin set me up, and I'm getting assaulted by a heavyweight prospect.
What I did like a lot in the broadcast was the interviewing of Ryan Garcia's dad. I'll just leave it there. I won't mention anything. I won't mention anymore. But get more parent interviews going on, I reckon.
But imagine if a man had asked the mother. It wouldn't be so funny, would it?
Just not funny. I'm not laughing.
I didn't see it. I'm about the loop.
George didn't see it.
I didn't see it. I'm about the loop. I'm going to get back.
Just go on Twitter, Kate Abdul Garcia. That'll probably bring it up. On that note, actually a couple of quiet weeks ahead in boxing after a good start to the year. A few quiet weeks. We may or may not be back next week. We're working on a few things. If we're not, then we'll definitely be back to preview January 30th. That's the one. Josh Kelly, David Avanesian, another cracking fight actually this time in the UK. Please do join us then, if not before. As I said, give the video a like, the channel a subscribe, or if you're listening, a rate and review. Thank you, Declan. Thank you, George. As ever, take care, and we'll see you soon.
Happy New Year.